Hello, good morning everybody. This is your host, The Cowboy, and welcome to Elliott Wave Cafe, where every couple of weeks we take a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum through the eyes of the Elliott Wave principle and try to make sense of price movement and structures to try to get a little bit of a glimpse into the future if we can. So we're taking a look here. I wanted to start a little bit with some longer term counts, and then we'll dive in and take a look at what's going on in the internals. And I have a couple of slides prepared here for you. And, one of my main counts that I continue to follow, it is this, what I call here the white count. And we're looking at this wave one cycle. And this was a major rise into the price of Bitcoin that I think, it's fair to assume that this terminated somewhere near the end of 2017. And we've done a big wave two cycle. And I'm trying to give this move that took, about a couple of years to unfold the right proportion. Compared with the rise in prices since, 2008, 2009 here. So that's why I'm choosing to count this as the end of the second wave cycle that ended up at the beginning of the pandemic in March of 2020. And since then, we've done another beautiful impulsive move that took us all the way to almost $70,000 in Bitcoin from somewhere near 4,000 or 3,900. So a big rise in price. And, ever since the spring of last year, we haven't really been able to do a lot of advancement. We've done a marginal new high, somewhere in November last year. And we have been correcting ever since. So if you take a look at the longer picture, you notice that the structure that began, let's say in the summer, in the spring of last year to up to now, it does have the look of a, nice, decent kind of in some sort of an equilibrium price pattern and corrective looking move. And I'm going to count this as a second wave at the primary degree of trend. So if this wave two cycle terminated in March of 2020, I think we're approaching an end to this wave to primary. And there are several ways to kind of look at this. But if you look at the longer kind of term trend line in here, it seems that we are, trying at least to respect it up to this point. And we should be embarking here fairly shortly towards a much larger advance in Bitcoin that can take prices to, even $500,000. So this is due to the fact that this is a wave two at the lower degree. So you look at the wave one cycle, wave two, wave one primary, wave two, and then you got to have that larger third of a third that basically pushes prices much higher. You're going to be followed by another fourth wave and then a push that will eventually complete, wave three, way upwards north of $1 million in Bitcoins. So now I know these are some crazy numbers, but, this thing might take a little bit longer to unfold. I know we cannot have the same growth rate that we've had, since 2010 all the way, let's say, to 2017. There is a lot more funds that need to get and a lot more adoption that Bitcoin needs to have to get a large increase in prices here. But this is kind of the idea of this count or of this larger move. And before I dive in and discuss what's going on at the smaller time frame, if we're looking at this move here as a flat correction, I want to jump over and show you a couple of other scenarios here on the longer time frame. Let's say that you might not be happy with the fact that I'm placing wave two cycle in here, that wave Y hasn't really come below the wave W, and you might ask yourself, why don't we just place wave two back in here? And I have something prepared for that, which is right discount. And I just put a label there calling it pink. But basically, we're finishing wave one cycle still at this highs. We're coming back in a wave two here. Now, mind you, the second wave, it's very, very short to kind of correct the whole advance that we've had here for, 7 to 8 years in price. And it would make a little bit more sense that this wave two cycle would be back here. So what I'm looking at, if you prefer this a little bit better, it's kind of the same idea. You're still going to push higher, but you might have a little bit more of a pause, and instead of moving explosively higher, let's say towards $500,000 in Bitcoin, you are basically, you know, doing another fifth wave here that can take prices, let's say, to anywhere above 100,000, 120 to 200,000, just from a visual looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that would be followed by another deep second wave pullback that could come and send us back, let's say, back towards 30 to 40,000. So you can have another major decline in price of Bitcoin after you finish, let's say, another wave one primary back in here. And I'm totally fine with this. And what kind of this does basically allows for this fourth wave to be a little bit more complex. And it can have also a triangle look in here, something that you actually cannot have as part of a second wave. So if this ends up being a fourth wave triangle, this is kind of what I'll be looking for to build, let's say, more upside momentum into the price and allow for this to grow much, much higher. Now, the last count that I have, it's something that's a bit more conservative. And you can, before I jump into that, you can notice in here that I have a few time fibs, right? So we're very, very close to 100% distance travel in this fourth wave. With the wave two, you know, so we would kind of have to start to get ready for an end of this move here, but it could still extend maybe towards 161.8, which comes towards, you know, middle to end of March, if this is going to end up being, let's say, more of a triangle. And this is how that looks. So I'm looking at this red count and, you know, changing a little bit the structure here in terms of the longer term count. You can maybe look at this as being a wave one cycle that basically completed here in 2013, wave 2, 3, 4, and you're trying to finish a larger super cycle in wave one in Bitcoin, let's say maybe towards the, you know, summer to fall later on this year, once you've finished up this fifth wave. So, you know, both these counts kind of work with this being a fourth wave, except that this one, this red one, it's a little bit more, let's say, conservative, for a lack of a better term, where you're basically, you know, not looking for a big explosion in Bitcoin going forward, but you're rather looking for you know, just a normal regular growth where you're going to go up and finish, let's say, a fifth wave, and then you're going to spend out maybe, you know, 2-3 years correcting this whole advance, if this is going to become, let's say, a wave one super cycle in here, and then you'll go sideways for a much larger second wave that can take several years to unfold. So this is my most conservative account. It still allows for a move higher upon the completion of this pattern. So now the most, you know, the count that is basically, you know, let's say most scary, let's say, for Bitcoin lovers, it's this count here where you can basically have a completely terminated move back in here in a wave one, and you're basically starting to unfold into a much larger second wave that's already kind of started. So this is, let's say, the most bearish count that I would have, where this is already done. You know, we're all thinking that this thing is going to continue to push higher, but rather than that, Bitcoin has started a much larger correction. And I don't think that's the case. I think, you know, based on what's going on, you know, on chain and, you know, the continuous development growth of this network, I doubt that we would be ready to move into such a long, dreadful correction in the price of Bitcoin. Now, I'm not, you know, very familiar with all the data in there. There's much smarter and much better prepared people on chain that can take a look at, you know, what's happening with the wallets, you know, with the miners, with everything else in there that can help you maybe guide, you know, your analysis a little bit more, combining with this Elliott wave. And I'm trying to just kind of keep this videos every couple of weeks in here in a more of a, you know, structured manner, where we basically take a look at Elliott wave and not much else. I talk in the pro room every single day on the daily videos with the members in our room, you know, about the other stuff. And we're trying to, you know, look, you know, at the macro field and what's going on with the equities, with the Fed, and try to, you know, put a little bit more of a blanket around the, you know, the prices where Bitcoin kind of fits into the whole narrative. But that's beyond the purpose of this video. So let's jump over and dive in a little bit into the structure and kind of see how it looks, and you know, why I think that we could be getting close here to the end of this correction. So this is a 1 week chart. Let's jump over and take a look at the second wave. This is one of the comments that I've made into the longer term chart that I have into the pro room in there, into the chart room, where I've said the wave 2 could be near completing a running flat, right? Because we haven't come yet below the wave A low to be an expanded flat, but it could become an expanded flat if this wave C travels lower, and 161.8 fib of C versus wave A comes in at about 19,000, which is very close to that December 2017 top. But we should be making new all-time highs upon completion of this corrective pattern. So, jumping here to a daily count, to a daily chart, this is what I mean. So far, this wave C corrected, almost 100%. You could say that it's 90% retracement of this wave A in this wave C. And for a regular flat, for a standard flat, which this looks very close to be something like that, usually you get equality between these waves. I mean, if you measure wave A and wave C, even in terms of their time traveled, even in terms of their price traveled, they are very close to this 100% mark, which would make it an ideal standard flat. The reason you cannot make it a standard flat is because this B wave pushed higher, just slightly, just briefly above the top of the origin of the wave A. So here we are, possibly being over in a wave C of a running flat, and you could be starting to make a move much higher. Now this move, if these internals here are not fully developed yet, let's say that this 1, 2, 3, although it does look like you might be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If this is not done and you're still going to make a new low in here, you might come back exactly towards this 100% at about 31,000, which is this big support that it's been holding really, really well in the first kind of bearish move after that high back in April. You could still come a little bit lower, and then only after that you can start to turn and move higher and start to get aggressive. Now this is, it does look like in terms of size that we've spent quite a bit of time correcting this advance. So, I do like this as being a second wave here. So let's see. I mean, you start to get confidence as the price starts to move in your favor, right? If you're believing that this count is the one that's going to work, you got to start looking for evidence. Now you have a little bit of evidence because you've moved higher. It does look like this was a full down flush. If you look on chain, you'll see a bunch of the realized losses in here, called for almost a capitulation type of a move back into these lows, and we've been recovering ever since. So we have some green shoots in here. We have a little bit of a spring showing, but not enough yet. We got to get above this fourth wave, and then we got to get back above this, 52,000 level as well. So the way I would look at that is I would start to dive in and look a little bit lower here into the time frames and start to see, if there is anything in here that can tell me that this is an impulsive move of the lows. And so far we have a little bit of an impulse. I'm counting this as a leading diagonal followed by a B wave in here, and try to see if we can get a 3, 4, and 5 and at least get us back towards 45,000. And if we can do this in some type of a nice bullish move, impulsive motive wave in 5 waves, that would be even a better indication that this move has completed. And I continue to mention this into the program every single day, that I think we've hit a pretty important low here, and we're starting to work our way higher, either as a wave 1 of the larger, let's say, third wave, right, of the larger third wave primary in here, either as a wave A in the triangle structure. So to kind of go on to that, I'm going to go back in here at the triangle count and I'll show you that. So wave A, up in 3 waves, down in 3 waves, W, X, ABC for a wave Y, for a A, that's up in here and an impulse in wave A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a B wave, there at about 69,000. Then you sell lower here, and you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a wave 1, you got a 2, so 1, 2, 1, 2. This creates the third of a third move, right? That's a very sharp drop. And then you have a wave 4 in here, a little bit larger than wave 2. Then you drop down again in this 5th wave. So you have a wave 3, then you go down up in 4, and then you finish with the final flush here in the 5th wave. It's not the best count. It's not the most ideal scenario here. I mean, there's still, some size issues that I have and some things that I'm not super happy with, but I'm trying to respect the fact that this does look like it has proportion. And what I mean by that, and I've just made a video about it I think last week on looking at proportions there. I'm basically measuring this decline and I'm placing it from the top there, and you can see that you have the same type of decline that you've had, from April here to July, and it follows the same nature. Now you could have another low just to kind of be perfect, but the markets are, sometimes they're not that perfect. And, while everybody might wait for another drop here, this could be already done and you could be start to move higher. So you always kind of have to be prepared for that aspect. What if the move is done, right? And then you start to look for evidence. So that's kind of where I'm at. And looking at the triangle structure in here, looking at this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and kind of coming back to let's say a 1 week, this also looks mighty fine, I must say. And you're still going to end up moving higher, longer term and shorter term here. And this is why, because you still got to do, so now this D wave has to be in 3 waves. So you still got to rally and go. Let's say if this C wave is over, right, I can take this and push it back in here, and you can do this as an ABC. If it makes you happier, you can do this as a WXY and go, let's say, ABC for a W up in X, and then another ABC in here, and complete a wave C through a double zigzag. Right, so there's several ways to kind of look at this decline. I'm not saying one is better than the other. What I am saying is that both of these are kind of hinting to the fact that you're going to get a rise into prices. And since nobody knows exactly what it's going to do longer term here, what we do know is that, we're expecting a rise from these lows up in here into this highs towards at least 45 to, let's say 40 to 45,000. Followed by a second wave in here, or a wave B, and then another push up higher in a wave D or a wave third. Right? So under both scenarios, you're looking at something like that, either an ABC or a 1, 2, and then if this becomes longer and you start to get above this B wave, then you're flipping over to the white count and say, well, now, we have a kind of a flat formation already confirmed, and you're about to move higher. Because remember this D wave can be part of a barrier triangle. And if you're familiar with that, what that means is that this D wave comes right near the B wave high, and it creates something like that. You're going down in A, up in B, down in C, you go in an A, B, C, you revisit the highs, but you never overtake them, or maybe just very, very briefly, and then you sell over in this E wave, and only then the market would start to rally. So that's why, I don't want to be very, fixed and direct, let's say, into my analysis, and really rock hard into showing you and telling you that this is exactly what is going to happen. Markets over time taught me to stay flexible and be aware of probabilities and respect the market, and don't necessarily assume that this is 100% what's going to happen. Now, you do have to have conviction, and you have to read the signs, and that comes with experience, but you always have to expand your horizon and just, let the movements flow, and don't hang your head and just say, this is what's going to happen, because you're going to be in for a world of pain overall. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. But I think Elliott wave remains a beautiful method of analysis, and it tells you kind of where you are, how to get ready, what to expect. So you're getting less emotional about the overall movements of price. So now just a quick look at the candlesticks here, and this move from the lows, it's a pretty nice, decent bullish reversal on the daily time frames. Almost looks like a full hammer, but it does look like we're building momentum. This does not seem to be a corrective move in any way. It seems to me like we're building something and we're looking for an explosion here. I might be wrong. But, so far, even though we've been rejected slightly here, the move continued. And you could see that with a solid close in the equities on Friday, there could be a signal from the market that we might be ready to take some risk on here. And, remains to be seen, but there's some green shoots in here, then that's kind of what I'm watching. And then it's important how we close this week. We're still fairly depressed in here because we're in a downtrend. There's not a lot of bullish sentiment building up just yet. I don't see any engulfing candles. I don't see any, bullish hammers on the weekly time frame. I'm still seeing, a fairly solid decline with a bunch of black candles. So, we need to see a little bit more from this market, but it starts to look, fairly interesting, I must say. And then on a 1 month, which is going to close here in the next couple of days, we tried to rally, we failed, and then we have 3 subsequent bearish months over here, and we're trying to close this month maybe halfway through it, and with a little bit of a rejection of the lows, which is slightly encouraging. But I would like to see maybe for the month of February, which seasonally, pay attention to that, seasonally the month of February, and maybe a lot of you already know, it's the strongest month of the year for a bullish price action in Bitcoin. So I'm very excited about it and see if it's going to get confirmed. Maybe we can get some kind of let's say a bullish engulfing and move towards 45 to 50K. And that would be a good signal that this flat or triangle could be panning out in here. So just a quick look at the moving averages in here. And, this is the 200 week, continues to climb. Right now it's about 19,260. Just slightly above that, we have the realized price of Bitcoin, which is at about 23.24. And that's, more of a fair value for price, although, people argue back and forth about it. And maybe, let's say it's 30 overall. And this is where below 24,000, it's where a lot of people will start to lose and a bunch of the network would be underwater. But we're somewhere between the 50 and 200 at the moment. And we got to regain the 50 week moving average to build upside momentum. And, we've dipped below it, quite aggressively here. So my confidence has been obviously, came lower, right? Because the moment you lose this important trend factor in here, you're starting to, believe that there could be a bearish development continuing in here. So I want to see the price regaining that, and that's going to be an indication that we're also moving higher. And that comes at about the same levels, right? At about between 45 and $50,000. And looking at the dailies, we're still below the 200-day moving average, which is something that we want to retake. It's still pointing higher to slightly flat. But the moment this 200-day starts to roll over and starts to point to the downside, then when you can kind of start to think that you might be in even a longer period of bearishness into price. So we're starting to move a little bit higher. We have the 21-day that's defending the price, and we're probably going to get a little bit of a resistance up there if we're able to move towards 40K. If we're able to take the 20, then we'll have the 50, which has done the death cross back in here, and then we got to fight. So there's plenty of fight ahead, but everything kind of starts small, and then you can build a momentum with every single one of these indicators. It gets taken out. There's going to be more and more confidence building on the bullish side, and that can continue to push prices higher. So this is my coverage for Bitcoin, guys. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at Ethereum and just see where things stand on the Ethereum network. And I have several accounts in here as well. And just like in Bitcoin, I'm looking at this as a wave 1 cycle top. Back in 2017, followed by a large 2-year second wave correction, through a WXY, and then with another beautiful impulse here in this wave 1. And, I'm trying to match the two and just say, well, one can really move on its own without the other, although there are, obviously if you look at the Ethereum Bitcoin cross, there are cycles over there as well, but mostly they follow the same patterns. And if you're looking at this as a wave 2, same thing as a flat in here. So just like in BTC, it appears that a flat is forming in the wave 2. So we should be heading to new all-time highs upon completion. And, we haven't hit exactly 100% in here, which was at about 1900. We stopped briefly below that. So if this is a running flat and that it's done, then we're looking for this move to start to explode higher. We are near, the lower levels of this trending channel in here, and we could be starting to move. And, if we're going to get another low in here and maybe even come below wave A for a little bit, back toward 138, you can start to drop towards maybe 1,000 in Bitcoin to have more of in Ethereum to have more of an expanded flat. But it's basically the same kind of a story, right? So I don't need to repeat everything I said in Bitcoin. It does look, fairly well. I mean, this was a very, very strong impulse. And all I'm looking for is to see if this wave 2, it's enough of a correction for this huge rise in prices. And the moment you're going to break back above the B wave, you can probably be rest assured that this move is already kind of done and you're starting to rip higher. The other count that I have in here, and let me see if I have maybe a smaller time frame count in here. Yes, I do. And this is, let's say, another 3 wave in a wave A, up in B, and then looking at this move in here, it's a little bit trickier than in Bitcoin because I'm struggling to find a completed sequence. So I'm going to watch it, but I'm looking at this again as a 1, 2. Then you have a leading diagonal here in a wave 1, possible, like in a 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's a little tricky. Not the best there, and then go up, down in 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 3, 4, and 5. So you still might have a little bit of a weakness in Ethereum. But I am kind of in between. I'll just leave it at that and then see if we're going to be able to climb and start to overtake 3,400. Then I'm going to be more inclined to say that you might have a completed sequence in here. And, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe the leading diagonal terminated here. That's a 1, 2. You got a 3, 4, and 5 or something. But there might be some wave issues, that I have in there, which sends me, back to thinking that this, could be a triangle leg. And this is more of a, let's say, a complex correction moving down in C, and then up in D, and then down in E. Kind of a similar story, just like in Bitcoin, where this is a triangle. You have some upside targets here to 100%, near $10,000, where this wave 5, the primary degree, would travel 100% with this wave 1. So that would be towards 9,500. And also you have a wave 5 versus 1 through 3 at about 38% at about 99.52. So this would be kind of a range of targets to the upside in case this ends up being a triangle, D and E, followed by a 5th wave. What this does, though, it just makes this wave 3 in here fairly small compared with this wave 1. And what that does is changes, let's say, the look, the overall right look for a larger 3rd wave is in an advance. So what this could mean, it is that, just like in Bitcoin, that this is actually a wave 1 off of wave 3. And I think I have that placed in here, where basically this is a triangle or a flat for a 4th wave. You're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for a wave 1 primary. Then you get a 2nd, then you get a 3, 4, and 5. But this will push Ethereum to some, astronomic prices. Is it possible? Is it not? I don't know how much power there is behind this network. I have no idea. There's a lot of competition in there. So, it's a little bit, let's say, maybe slightly different than what you have in Bitcoin, but it's very possible. So, the only reason I'm mentioning this is because of proportionality. So if this is going to be a 3rd wave, it's going to be smaller than wave 1, so which means that a wave 5 cycle will have to be right in here. A wave 5 cycle will have to be smaller than a wave 3 to kind of keep the proportion. But that's, way out into the future. So remains to be seen. Again, just take a look at the time fibs, 100%. We're hitting it right now compared with the 2nd wave. And then, 161.8 comes here at about in April 11. And I've done a video on for YouTube long time ago with how to do these time fibs in TradingView. So go ahead and search my YouTube channel for that is one of my most watched videos. And I might try to update that and do something more fresh, but I'm always trying to put some time fib, especially when it comes to a fourth wave degree compared with the second wave. So that's kind of, you know, where I'm at on Ethereum. You know, a D wave could be starting back in here as well. So I'm going to be looking on the smaller time frame for some impulses back in here and see if this move ends up being just a 3-wave move and it starts to, you know, give you that proportion. That means that we're likely in a fourth, and you can assume that it's a similar story in Bitcoin as well, and then it's going to be pushed still higher. So the narrative, it's still, you know, sort of bullish across. So, you know, I'm going to kind of close it off with this. Not a lot of time to spend on Ethereum like I did in Bitcoin, but I think, I mean, even in candlestick patterns in here, things are, you know, looking fairly interesting. You know, we're trying to get some bullish momentum in here. It's still fairly depressed. So there's a lot of bearish sell-off since these highs. So the bears control the narrative since these highs, and we wanted to see some more improvements on the bullish side. Taking a look quickly at the daily here, as the price is moving 2601. You know, it's a nice little, I don't even know how to call this one because it kind of had a bearish close. So, but anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and please visit me on Twitter. I'm getting more and more active in here, and this is my channel. I have about 460 followers. I would like to kind of continue to grow this and you know, grow our exposure. If you like this video, please tell your friends about it, and you know, hit the thumbs up and subscribe and leave your comments. Let me know what you think. You know, come on Twitter, show me your chart. Let's talk about it. Let's get better at this conversation. Right here, there is a link that will take you to the private trading room where we do daily videos every single day where we follow stocks and equities and portfolios and you know, alts, and there's a lot of things going on over there. I can you know, provide a lot of information in detail, something that I cannot do every couple of weeks for YouTube. But again, thanks for watching. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.